Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms that are with us and everyone who has a mom. Hopefully that's everyone. I don't think anyone was necessarily hatched, or all those that are thinking of their mothers, mothers that are with us, mothers that are not with us. It is Mother's Day. It's fitting, I think, that we do take one day a year for this recognition, one day in response for a lifetime of support that many of the moms have offered to us. One day, is that too much, really, considering that egg salad gets a whole week, and that pickles and pancakes and pickled peppers and split pea soup, clowns, carpenter ants, and aardvarks all get an entire week to celebrate those things. And more than that, peanut butter gets an entire month. The month of March, chickens get a month. The month of September, oatmeal gets a month. The month of January, surely we can set aside one day for moms. The Apostle Paul really understood the importance of moms and grandmas, especially in shaping a child's faith. And I'm going to read today from 2 Timothy. This is some of the advice that the Apostle Paul is giving to his protege, Timothy. 2 Timothy, the first chapter, beginning at the 3rd verse. I am grateful to God, whom I worship with a clear conscience, as my ancestors did, when I remember you constantly in my prayers, night and day. Recalling your tears, I long to see you, so that I may be filled with joy. I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that first lived in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I'm sure lives in you. And for this reason, I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is within you through the laying on of my hands. For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather a spirit of power and of love and of self-discipline. This little letter from the Apostle Paul to Timothy. Paul in this letter is offering advice to young Timothy. He's been mentoring him, and he describes, Paul does, the gratitude that he has, not only for young Tim, but for his mother, Eunice, that he calls out by name, for his grandmother, Lois, that he calls out by name, because he recognizes that this faith, the faith that lives on in Timothy and has shaped Timothy to be the man that he is, first came generationally from his grandmother down to his mother and now to Timothy. This is the Mother's Day sermon. There are some churches that just avoid Mother's Day because of the pain and the difficulty that it has for some. But I am preaching without apology and with appreciation for that time-honored institution of motherhood, without the benefit of which none of us would be here today. But of course, the Mother's Day sermon is not a slam dunk. We're reminded that for many, Mother's Day is not a celebration. As you heard Pastor Laura sharing in her prayers, for some, motherhood has all kinds of difficulty or ambiguous or even painful feelings associated with it. For some, motherhood is an accident and not always a welcome one. For some, biological motherhood just simply is not possible. And there are some whose mothers, let's face it, there are some whose mothers just weren't all that nice. For some, this day is a painful reminder of loss, whether that's the loss of a child or the great heartache that comes with having children who grieve their parents with their own actions and their own behaviors. There's a young woman named Amy Young who writes a blog on the internet. It's gained quite a following, and I'm not sure this litany that I'm going to share with you here in just a moment, I'm not sure whether she wrote this litany for her blog or shared it on her blog or not, but it is worth repeating here, and I think she just has a beautiful way of kind of carrying all the sentiment of this day forward. Amy writes, "To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate with you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn with you. And to those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. And to those who experienced loss this year through miscarriage or failed adoptions or running away, we mourn with you. And to those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, tears, and disappointment, we walk with you. And forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make this harder than it already is. And to those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, we need you. And to those who have a warm and close relationship with their children, we rejoice with you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. And to those who have lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. And to those who experienced abuse at the hands of their own mother, we acknowledge your pain and your experience. To those who will have emptier nests in the coming year, we grieve and rejoice with you. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. This Mother's Day, we walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have real warriors in our midst. That last line alone is worth everything. We have real warriors in our midst. Those who have been like mothers for us, as well as our mothers, our grandmothers, real warriors in our midst. Pat Williams is a sports enthusiast, sports writer, and he wrote a book a few years ago, well, a number of years ago now, called The Lifetime of Success. And in this book, Williams provides one of the best examples, I think, that I've ever read about a mother's warrior-like love. It is the story of attending a very special Atlanta Braves baseball game opener on April 8th, 1974. Any baseball statisticians out there that know the significance of that date? April 8th, 1974, Atlanta Braves Stadium. Does that date ring a bell with anyone?
Hey here.
That's right. That was the night. It was a night game, a night opener against the Dodgers. It was a complete sellout. And Pat Williams writes about being in the stands the night when the immortal Hank Aaron stepped up to the plate. On the line, of course, Babe Ruth's record 714 career home runs. And Aaron had tied the record, and on this night, he was aiming to break it. Now understand, this all happened over 45 years ago. an African American player was about to topple the gray Babe Ruth. And there were just simply a lot of people in the country that did not like that one bit. That year, Hank Aaron received over 930,000 pieces of mail. Can you imagine that? Almost 1 million pieces of mail, 1 million letters. Now, most of them were fan letters, but there were about 100,000 of them. That's more than 1 in 10. 100,000 of those letters were hate letters, and many of them contained death threats against Aaron, because how dare he break Babe Ruth's record. Williams writes about being on the edge of a seat when Dodgers pitcher Al Dowling hurled the ball toward the plate, and Aaron swung and connected with that first pitch. The crack of his bat echoed throughout the stands, and that ball was gone. Home run! And Babe Ruth's record had been shattered, and the ballpark just went nuts. And Aaron began to run the bases, and as he rounds second base, says Williams, a couple of young white males jumped over the retaining wall and ran out onto the field and began to chase after Aaron. And for just a moment, no one knew what those two had in mind. But then it became clear. They were just caught up in the moment, and they were celebrating and cheering and running with Aaron around the bases. And as Hank Aaron crossed home plate, the dugouts emptied onto the field. The Braves surrounded their hero and began to cheer and whoop it up, and then others began to climb over the retaining wall and out onto the field to surround Aaron there at home plate. But as this crowd kept growing, then through the crowd of people that were there pressing in on Hank Aaron, a short 68-year-old woman began to elbow her way through the crowd and began to push through all the people, making a beeline for Aaron. And promptly when she gets up next to him, she throws her arms around him in a great bear hug and will not let go. The future Hall of Famer looked down and he said to her, "Ma, what are you doing?" And later, Hank Aaron would recount that this is what his mother said to him. She said, baby, if they're going to get you," no doubt thinking of all those death threats that he had received, "if they're going to get to you, they've got to get through me first." That's why we can give up one day, sure, one Sunday, to celebrate that kind of love. The fierce love of the warriors in our midst, who continue to hold our children tight and protect them at all costs. Thanks be to God